can't. So, what this all leads down to is, dukkha, obviously, like I've said many times, dukkha is the center point. Dukkha is the reason for this practice. Dukkha is the reason why we come here and we meditate and we try to understand our experiences. We try to understand what's going on with our mind and body. And when we talk about impermanence, right? Bhante Mangala said, Bhante Ji's one of his favorite quotes is, the only thing permanent is impermanence. But that's pretty consistent, right? You can't really fight that. That is something, it is a characteristic of existence. But what about dukkha? Is dukkha something that is some kind of permanent, some kind of characteristic monolith that's out there, that exists in the universe? Or is it in our mind? Right? If we can let go of dukkha, then it is our own creation. Right? Dukkha is the result of how we relate to reality. If we cling to what is impermanent, what is undependable, we cause our own suffering. Dukkha is not something that somebody else or the universe or whatever puts on us. Dukkha is what we take up. We take up the burden ourselves. And that's a lot of responsibility, right? Who wants to take on the responsibility that we cause our own dukkha, that we create our own dukkha? That's a hard, tough pill to swallow. But this is what the Buddha is telling us. And so it's not all despair, though. The Buddha, the reason that if we have the responsibility of this dukkha, if we are creating this dukkha, if we are creating our own suffering, well, guess what? We have the choice to not do that. We have the choice to let go. Once you realize that you have the power, once you realize that it's not some external force that's causing you suffering, that's causing you pain, once you realize that it's you, and you are responsible for your own dukkha, then you give yourself the power to change that, to end that dukkha. Okay? The Buddha saw dukkha. The Buddha saw and understood dukkha, and he followed the path, and he ended it. And he came to us and he says, well, here is these Four Noble Truths. Here is this Noble Eightfold Path. Follow this. His last words were, everything is undependable. Everything is ever-changing. Everything is impermanent. Strive with diligence to reach your salvation. Those were his last words. From the beginning of his ministry to the end, that was his message to us. His message was, this is dukkha. This is the problem. This is how you solve it. You have the power to solve it. You have the power to fix it. And that's an amazingly important and wonderful message. It's not that we're stuck in this, world like some other, traditions or some other religions that believe, well, this world sucks. And so we just have to deal with it until we die, and then, there's something nice after that. We can be rewarded after that. Right? That's not that way in Buddhism. In Buddhism, this is dukkha. You're causing your own problems. End it. End it. And that's the message of the Buddha. So impermanence has to exist. There's no way that you can change impermanence. Even in science, I was watching a documentary with a scientist, and she said, science has yet to find anything that's permanent. She was an astrophysicist, an astronomer, and you look out, there's nothing that you can find that's permanent. But dukkha, so we can't change impermanence. We can't change the reality of existence, but we can change how we relate to that reality. We can change what we do with that reality. We have that choice. We always have a choice. And if you're a beginner meditator, if you're just starting out on the journey, sometimes it would probably be really hard to even see that as a possibility. But this practice leads you to the understanding that you do have a choice. There's a simile called the simile of the dart or the arrow. And in this, the Buddha is talking about the difference between somebody who is a practitioner, somebody who is a student, a trainee of this Dhamma, and somebody who isn't. And so the simile goes like this. We're all pierced by an arrow of physical pain. We're all pierced by an arrow of dukkha. The average person, on having that arrow hit them, is then hit by another arrow. And that is the arrow of mental suffering, of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Right? So what the Buddha is saying is that for the average person, they get hit by that second arrow. Somebody who is a trainee, somebody who is following this path and understands, they don't get hit by that second arrow. It's as if they only have the first arrow. So the Buddha is telling us, even in this sutta, we have a choice. We don't have to be hit by that second arrow. We don't have to have experiences that occur in our life and suffer because of them. We can, every time we have an experience, something that comes up in our life, it's at that point that we can choose how to react to that experience. And it's at that point where we create our own suffering or we let go of it. So this is the importance of understanding dukkha. When you understand dukkha, you can let go of it. You can make the choice to not continue carrying the burden. You can put the world down. You can put your backpack down, whatever simile you want to see, you want to use. And so, friends, this was my message and my what I wanted to talk to you about in relation to dukkha today. The full understanding of dukkha. This is what the Buddha taught, dukkha and the cessation of it. No matter what we're doing on our path, if we're meditating, if we're not meditating, there's a wide variety of practice on this path. Whatever we're doing, if we're just practicing generosity, if we're practicing just morality, if we're doing the whole thing, morality, meditation, it's all leading towards the cessation of suffering. Everything that he taught is for the cessation of suffering, out of compassion for us, so that we can follow this path and let this burden down and be gone with it.